who will be listening, and may all our families be enriched through this process. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. So today we have Pastor Jongimpi Papu, who will be talking to us about families. It's nurturing families, and we're zooming particularly around challenges that are facing modern families. I'm going to hand over to him. He is our guest for tonight. And this is part 2, as you know that we also have part 3 next week. So thank you, Pastor Papu, again for agreeing to be on this platform, to come and speak for Sandton Church. I'm thanking you on behalf of Sandton Church. I'm thanking you on behalf of the Family Life Committee. And we're very grateful that you continue to avail yourself to assist and help us enrich our family. So I'm going to hand over to you. So what we're going to do is most of you have joined through Facebook and also through YouTube. Please write your questions on Facebook. We will pick them up, and then they will be flighted here on the screen. But we will also flight a number where you can send a WhatsApp or an SMS if you think the question that you want to ask is a little bit sensitive. So there will be a number on the screen that you can use to actually SMS your question, and all the questions will be answered by the pastor. He may answer some of them as he presents, or he may answer all of them at the end of the session. So thanks again for participating. Fundisi, over to you.
Thank you. Let me see. Thank you very much, Busi. Greetings, friends and enemies. It's good to be together this afternoon or this evening. We're going to spend some few minutes together. I can't say I've been looking forward to this. It has been a hectic day, but we're here. This is number 20-something of our lockdown, and we still have a few days. Let's hope that at the end of the prescribed period that this will be lifted. If it doesn't, then we'll have to see what we can do. I hope everything is okay with you. We will try this evening to allocate more time for our questions. I think we were a little bit hurried last week because we ended up having a long program. My wife is not with me. I'm flying solo. She's had a very hectic day. She's just had knee replacements, so there are days when she's not very in a good mood, but she has been very busy today. So we couldn't sit down and put this subject together. So I'm flying solo this evening. The topic we are looking at is challenges facing modern families. Now, the point I want to raise in this topic, because we can enumerate those challenges and look at them, and I don't think you're going to be surprised. We can talk about divorce, we can talk about finance, we can talk about lack of communication, we can talk about in-laws, or some would call outlaws. We can talk about economy, we can talk about church, we can talk about relationships, abusive relationships, and all of that. But I want to, within that topic, zero in on and emphasize the fact that when we are looking at challenges facing, it's not just challenges that are happen to be there haphazard, like a virus with no plan or design. These are systematic, these are well orchestrated, these are well designed. This is what we call attack on the family. So what I'm trying to say here, whether you believe it or not, your family is under attack. There are forces that are planning the destruction of your family. There are forces that don't sleep day in, day out, that seeks to make sure that your family is destroyed. And we probably know that it's because the family plays a very important role in bringing up children. So if you want to kill any society, if you want to kill generations, if you want to kill communities, if you want to kill churches, then you kill families. And so if at the end your goal is to destroy the world, how are you going to do it? By just exposing everyone to the virus? Maybe. But what you do is to attack the unit, the building block of the society, and that's the family. And I can promise you, and I've said this to young people, that the devil attacks your family before you have it. He attacks your family before you have it. So by the time you have your family, you are finished. He destroys you, so that by the time you have a family, you are destroyed, so that you now act as an agent to destroy anything around you. You know, people who are destroyed tend to destroy, hurting people, hurt. So he wounds you as a child coming up in a family, dysfunctional family, so that you'll also have a family similar, if not worse, than the family you're coming from. So I look at these challenges personally as very strategic. These challenges are directed at certain key points of the family to make sure that the family is destroyed. So we have to be vigilant. We have to be aware. We have to also come up with a strategy to defend our families. You can't just, I was talking to a friend of mine, you can't just not want to know, not want to read, not want to make sure that you equip yourself as a person in your family. And one of the reasons why our families are in disarray is that we think that they'll just develop on their own. You know, there was a time where growing up in the village, you didn't have to attend seminars on parenting and seminars on marriage enrichment. You know, the whole environment was just conducive to bring up those things. No one divorced, no one did this, so it was nice. But now, all values that you hold are challenged. Your next door neighbor believes something different. So you have no ready-made support, even at times from the church. So you're almost on your own, black men. So it becomes crucial for us to also be strategic and intentional and deliberate in how we bring our families. We can't plead and say we're ignorant. We did not know. You have to know, especially if you have children. Once you have children, you have assumed responsibility. Life can never be the same again. So let's see then, let's look at the family. And then as we look at the family, then you'll be able to see some of the challenges that will be attacking the different facets of the family. And then, of course, we will check and see how far we can go. Let me start with this statement, the power of a Christian family. Just to give you a reason why, if you were the enemy of humanity, why you would destroy a family. It says the one well-ordered, well-disciplined family tells more in behalf of Christianity than all the sermons that can be preached. Such a family gives evidence that the parents have been successful in following both directions. And now those of us who are preachers who enjoy giving sermons, the best sermon is your family. And people spend time, they go to school, and so they can preach sermons. Others study so they can give out sermons. But the best sermon is your family. And the question is, how much time do you spend bringing up a family? How much time do you spend making sure that your family is well ordered, well structured, well disciplined? And a family that's well disciplined brings up children that are well disciplined. And it becomes a blessing to the whole world. But a family that is not well disciplined, not well ordered, is a family that's going to bring about, produce criminals, rapists, child molesters, and all those maladjusted people, individuals. They come from the family. We may complain about the behavior and the conduct of some people or such people, but behind there's a family. Those people come from families. So you need to decide now what kind of a factory you're going to bring, what kind of goods do you want to produce in your family. Are you going to produce virus-infected goods that will go around destroying everyone they come in contact with? It's up to you. That's your contribution. That's your contribution. That's why when those of us who are not married, when you're looking for a wife, don't just look for the nice hair. Look also for some nice brain there that can act like a mother or a father to start up and make sure that you have a family. Now, here's another one. So the first one has to do with the family, that we need those well-ordered families. Now, the following quotations are going to be more or less looking at how we can then have such families. How do you build such families? And then here's the first one. If fathers and mothers, we're talking about family now, if fathers and mothers are true Christians in the family, they'll be useful members of the church and be able to conduct affairs in the church, in society, and after the same manner in which they conduct their family concerns. So what it basically says is well-ordered and well-disciplined families in our context here are actually constituted by fathers and mothers who are true Christians. We're not talking about Christians here, people who go to church goers. We're talking about true Christians, disciples, followers of Christ. So if fathers and mothers are true Christians in the family, they will conduct their family concerns in the manner that is pleasing to God. So you see, number one. So the first challenge you're going to face in your family is that you're going to have a father who is not a true Christian. You're going to have a mother who's not a true Christian. You're going to have parents who are not true Christians. I'm not saying they're not Christians. In this text, they are not true Christians. In other words, they are Christians, but they don't know, they are not growing as they're supposed to. They are Christians, but they have a very distorted understanding of view of God. They've got a toxic faith that really renders them incapable of bringing up children. We will look at that later on towards the end of this presentation. So if we were to build this family, we would have a father and a mother who's a true Christian. So in other words, a father who's a Christian marries a mother who's a Christian. So that's the whole problem right there. And I know we don't want to we talk about this as if we are spiritualizing. Everybody wants to know, how can I enjoy my romantic life? How can we have sex that we're going to enjoy together with my wife? You're all asking all those questions. Not good. But here's the foundation. You've got to have a Christian husband and a Christian wife. So the problem with our families is that we fight and we quarrel, and yet we never come together and pray. It's like we are not Christians, And I'm assuming that that's the Christian context that we have here, as this thing is sponsored by Sandton. We are sort of ashamed of our Christianity. We are ashamed of being committed Christians. I mean, when mother fights the father or the husband fights the wife, sometimes you find it difficult to say, honey, I think we should pray. It's like prayer is for church, not for home. Inevitably, when you go to your home where there are fights, then you will discover that they are also not praying. So that's a challenge. You've got a church, you've got a family that believes in Christ, but for some reason they are flying solo. They have no regard for Christ. And then you ask, in most cases, do you guys pray? No, we no longer pray. I pray alone with the children, or we don't pray. We've last prayed 3 years ago. So what happened? Your challenges that stopped you from praying, or you stopped from praying, that's why you have challenges. It doesn't matter how you look at it. Is that challenges are there to make sure that you have no time to pray. And when you have no time to pray, then you have enough time to start attacking each other and destroying one another. You do that, it goes to the church. And one of the reasons why our churches are like war zones is because the families that are comprising of those churches are themselves war zones. So what challenges are there in our between this thing, in our relationship with Christ? Then there'll be challenges of time. So when the mother has no time to spend with God and in devotional life, in devotion, no time to strengthen your own relationship with God individually and together, where the father has time for himself, when the mother has time for herself, when both of them have time for both of them, where they read, when they study, when they pray. Those things are important. I don't care how you look at it. Now, I know people have problems and they want to talk to a pastor. Pastor, please help us. Sometimes you feel like, no, I can't. You must go to God. You can't come to the pastor without going to God. Go to God is the one who created marriage. And if you go to God, he might probably send you to a pastor. And sometimes we treat pastors as gods who are supposed to have these miraculous interventions to help our families grow. You know what the problem is. You're separated in most cases. Your view of God is wanting. I had a person who just married, who called some time ago, 2 years ago. They just married, and the husband is a vegetarian, and the husband thinks the wife is a demon because the wife is not a vegetarian. What is that? What is that? What kind of a family is that? So number one, fathers and mothers. So you're going to have challenges in your relationship with Christ, and you've got to look at those challenges. Those challenges are strategic. Once they destroy your Christianity between you and God, there as parents, and you will see what's going to happen. We'll be looking at some of those issues that are going to happen. So number one, take care of your relationship with Christ. Take it seriously. Don't take it for granted. Now, we're not going to be talking about psychology now and other things. They're in the Bible. Take time with God. You can't stay with a creature and not be connected to the Creator. Creatures are very amazing. They'll surprise you. They change. They are moving targets. Stay and make sure that you are founded on that foundation. We'll probably come back to this later. Then here's something very interesting here. Then he says now, assuming therefore that we have a father and a mother who are true Christians, he says now, the atmosphere surrounding the souls of fathers and mothers fills the whole house and is felt in every department of the home. I don't know what you understand by that, the atmosphere. So there's an atmosphere between a father and a mother who loves God and they love each other. There's an atmosphere around them that surrounds them, that surrounds their souls, that surrounds their heart. That there's a vibe, there's an ambience, there's this thing that is intangible, that is there when there's unity and harmony between the mother and the father. I promise you. But when there's no harmony between the mother and the father, that atmosphere is still there. And studies have shown, by the way, that atmosphere actually is the one that encourages rebels. Now, it has been shown that if you go to a classroom, and the teacher in the classroom is disoriented or is disintegrating, is not together, she has issues, she exhibits that atmosphere to the whole classroom, so that atmosphere becomes a thriving environment for rebellion, so that kids now begin to find it easier to rebel. It's that the environment just causes this agitation, and then the whole classroom becomes unruly. And I'm just making an example here. And if you look at it seriously, is that there's no peace. The person who's supposed to be the teacher in front of them does not have that atmosphere. Okay, let's move away from that. Go to the home. If the mother and the father are in constant bickering and fighting, obviously, the atmosphere around them is going to create a headache situation of all those around the family. I mean, you've been in families where you know that, hey man, there's something that's not right here. But here's the thing, kids, I think we mentioned it last time, kids can sense when there's something wrong in the family. Even toddlers, even infants, little kids, you'll find them trying to bring mommy and daddy together. They can feel, and that affects them. It's toxic. It destroys them. It creates this whole issue of creating attractiveness to a deviant and misconduct. It makes them to be attracted to evil things. Now, when we say the atmosphere, we are basically saying that it is a demonic atmosphere. It makes demons to have a home in that family. That home becomes the opposite of heaven. But what happens when there's unity and harmony between the mother and the father? It creates a very important positive vibe that just brings up kids that are well organized, kids that are well rounded because of that atmosphere. I've been reading. Now, some of you may actually know this more than I do. Spiritual intelligence, heart intelligence. That the heart, when it is in sync with the mind, with the brain, that's something there between the heart and the brain, creating that something balance. When speaking from the heart is the same as speaking from the mind. When there's integration in the individual, that spirit, that atmosphere that goes beyond yourself, creating a vibe When you walk in, when you are there, people just feel like, I just feel relaxed. You're carrying this aura with yourself. You're carrying this environment, this atmosphere. That's what this text is speaking to. This quotation is speaking to. And in the family, that thing can be felt, man. It can be felt. It says here, it is felt in every department of the home. So you are constantly bickering. That's very toxic. You are destroying your children, not only your children. It says it is felt in every department of the home. It is a fact. Some of you are going to agree with me. Even the plants do not grow in that home. You will be watering them and giving them water, giving them this, but the thing is just dying because of the environment. Even plants don't grow in that kind of atmosphere. How much more with children? And then now, that atmosphere that we're talking about is actually dependent or premised on the conduct of the husband toward the wife and of the wife toward the husband. So in other words, we attract this. This is what I call the pre-existing condition. And the virus take advantage. There are issues outside, challenges outside, money, this and that. Those things do not have the power in themselves to destroy us. But it's when there are pre-existing conditions. It is when there's a compromise of our family immune system, of our immune system as a couple, of our emotional immune system, such that now all these things that happen outside, they can destroy us because there's nothing inside. And so we say, no, is this man who is this wife or this woman who tempted my husband, and then you want to go and fight every woman at the mall. Everybody looks at your husband. You want to kill him, or you want to report that to the police. No, you can't have a mask for your relationship. You can't. You've got to develop the atmosphere. You've got to develop the inside. You've got to develop and make sure there are no pre-existing conditions. And what are those? The conduct between the two of you. When you are able to relate, the mother showing love to the father, showing love to the mother, or the husband showing love to the wife, and the wife respecting the husband, working together and loving your wife like Christ loved the church. That thing, it virus proofs your relationship. It protects it from all the things that can attack it. But otherwise, if you don't have that, if you know you're fragile, if you know you have pre-existing conditions, then you have to go around putting masks and trying to protect yourself against women, against men, against this and against that, because they want to destroy your family. But the problem is within. It's within. If that is taken care of, now, right there in the family, if we are not relating well together, we are opening the avenue for the devil to come in. We are allowing pre-existing conditions to actually create the levels of hostility and toxicity from the foreign stimulus or foreign whatever that's going to come and destroy the family. So how you relate to each other. So what's going to happen? What do you think the devil is going to do? Try to make sure that the both of you, that you are not in sync. You are always fighting. There's no relationship. I mean, you hear it over and over again. This woman does not respect me, and then the wife will say, "This man does not love me." And so once you say that this man does not love me, and you crave for that, this woman does not respect me, and you crave for that, usually, I'm not saying it's okay, I'm not saying it's justified. Once you discover that, you have to work at it. So people leave sometimes, more often than not. They leave and they get somebody who respects them. They leave and they get somebody who loves them. It gets into a divorce. It gets into an extramarital affair. What happened, beloved? What happened? It's not because of the virus outside there, the challenge outside there. What happened is that right there inside the home, there was nothing happening. It was there. And it died the day after the wedding. And here's another thing then. Now, once you have that, remember we spoke about that atmosphere. We spoke about the mother and the father being true Christians. We spoke about the mother and the father relating well with each other. Then it says, the best way then to educate your children to respect their father and mother. This is now the fifth commandment. How do you help your children to obey the fifth commandment? How do you educate your children to respect you as the parent? How? That's the question. Now you can have a seminar, and I know some of you have already read. Let's read it. Mother is to give them the opportunity of seeing the father, of offering kindly attention to the mother, and the mother rendering respect and reverence to the father. It is by beholding love in their parents that children are led to obey the fifth commandment. The fifth commandment says, "Thou shalt obey your parents." Obey your parents. Now you can attend a seminar where they're going to teach you how to discipline children. We're going to say something about that later on, how children can obey, why children are unruly, want all kinds of things. But fine, let's go for those. I'm for that. But here's the foundation. If you are not visibly rendering respect and reverence to the father of the children, if you are not offering kindly attentions to the mother of the children, those children do not see you as parents. By the way, if you go to the book of Ephesians, it starts by saying Ephesians 5, it says, from verse 23, husbands, wives, love your husbands. So wives, submit to your husbands, and husbands, love your wives. It actually tells us what is the meaning of parents. Parents. This is the unit. This is the composition of parents. A mother, a wife, submitting or obedient to the father, to the husband, and a husband loving the wife. One day we'll talk about those things, those powerful, but we're not addressing that now. That relationship there, according to Ephesians. Once you have that, then you go to Ephesians chapter 6. Then it says, children, obey your parents. But who are the parents? Their parents have already been defined in verse 23, from verse 23. The mother who loves, who obeys, and the father who loves. Those are the parents. It is therefore, by definition, very true that you have ceased to be the parents of your children if you don't love each other. Children don't know who their parents are. They can't see you as the father if you don't love the mother. I mean, there are many people who are male. They don't regard them as fathers. Why do they think you're a father? Because of how you relate to the mother. This is our mother, or this must be our father. But look at by the way he treats my mother, he should be my father. Is this my mother? Yeah, but how do you know it's your mother? Look at the way he treats my father. Kids define mother based on how mother relates to the father and how father relates to the mother. This is huge. This is just deep. This is very deep, and we struggle to really wrap my mind around this. So when children are disobedient, sometimes they are trying to say that they are trying to cry. It's a cry. They are looking for a parent. They're looking for a mother. They're looking for father. They don't see when you fight mother and father, and there's these levels of toxicity you're fighting. Children are going to find it very difficult to obey you. But you know what? To make things worse, they'll find it difficult to obey God because God is supposed to be the Father in heaven. But there's a father here who's struggling. By the way, children, to a great extent, think that God, at the age of 7, it has been shown that children, when they think of God in the image of their father. So if there's a father here who doesn't behave like a father, then those kids assume that that's who God is. So their failure to obey their parents actually inevitably leads to them seriously having a problem with God. All right. So what are we trying to say then? What we're trying to say that heaven basically is a home where there's an atmosphere of heaven, not necessarily a house that has 35 rooms, swimming pool, gymnasium, jacuzzi. Oh, those things are okay. If you have money, you buy those. But there are things you cannot buy with money, like loving, respecting, having time. And we're going to be looking at those things now. When you do that, you are virus proofing your family. You're making sure that the virus will not attack. You're building the immune system. You're vaccinating your family. So there will be challenges in the relationship between the mother and the father, because when that happens, the devil knows that I'm destroying the children. So you'll find that in more often than not, unruly children are coming from families where there's a problem between the mother and the father. And some people say, no, as long as I love my child, I don't care even if I don't respect their father. No, there was a book. Actually, there's a book that says, do yourself a favor, love the mother of your children, love your wife. The best thing you can do for a boy is to love his mother. Best thing you can do for your daughter is to respect her father. So, what makes families effective on passing faith to children? In other words, if we want to pass our faith to children, if we want to make sure that we inoculate our children against all these challenges that they're going to face, you're talking about drugs that are facing us, you're talking about sexual immorality, you're talking about all these other pornography, you talking. There's so many things we can spend the whole night counting them. There are so many things. How do you prove? How do you make sure that they are protected? They are inoculated against that. You've got a family, but there are certain things you need to do as a family, deliberate. And these 8 factors have actually been researched. These are evidence-based that when these things are done in a family, there was a study done called Value Genesis that came up with these 8 family effectiveness factors that when these are existing in a family, then you are able to pass your faith. You are able to make sure that what you have as a mother and a father is also passed to the children. But remember, in that environment, because it's no use, man, fighting the whole day and then coming at 7 o'clock to pray. It doesn't make any big difference. All right, number 1, let's quickly run through this. Quality family worship. It's very important that we spend time on worship. I know we're busy, but now we've found ways of being able to connect with our families, even though we are far from each other. You may be in Egypt and you Zoom, you bring all the family together and you pray. Let people see that daddy is in Egypt in a hotel with no one. There they can see the hotel. And then you all pray. Mommy is in a meeting in Durban. It's not there walking or having whatever. And then we can have Zoom when we pray together. You can have family worship even in the absence. Now you have no excuse, like I said, in the absence of the parents. And then you can connect with your children also, even though you're away. But nothing beats, of course, physical contact. When you are home, you are home. Don't be home and then still be away. Finding time to be together. But quality family worship, not just quantity, counting that we've done 7 family worships, but quality, where we sit and talk and share together. And tell your kids how you accepted Christ. And stop coming up with stories where you accept Christ when you were almost 40 years enjoying your life, and then you accepted Christ, and then the whole journey and acceptance of Christ becomes an anticlimax. I was okay until I accepted Christ. That's not what we're talking about. So in the family worship, there's sharing of experience, helping at home, and doing service activities as a family is very important. Washing dishes together, cleaning the yard together, cutting the lawn together, doing this thing together, cleaning the house together. It's nice. I mean, it's beautiful. That thing brings the family together, that working together. Instead of having each one sitting with his device and watching whatever. Let's find time. I don't mean every day, every hour of the day, especially in the lockdown. Let's make sure we inculcate those things. Let's do things together. Let's help one another. Let's be in the kitchen together. Let's go wash the car together. Let's clean the house together. That togetherness, do things together. It builds memories. That thing is amazing. Parents sharing faith with their children. In other words, telling them how you came to Christ. Loving, caring, supportive parents. Want to know what is happening. Want to know what is happening with their friends. I don't necessarily mean girlfriends, that also, but just their friends. 12-year-old, what's happening with Nogzola? I don't see you talking to her. No, we're a quarreling. You talk. You show interest in your child. Caring, supportive parents. parents that set limits and exercise control. You remember we'll touch on it now. I don't know whether we'll have time. We have 9 or 10 minutes. I'm not sure if we're going to have time. But if parents set limits and supportive parents, in other words, you're keeping a balance between support and control. You remember, if you have high support but no control, that's a permissive family. If you have high control, high support is authoritative. If there's high control and no support or low support, then you're looking at an authoritarian family. Then if you have high support and or low support and low control, that's a neglectful family. So you balance that. There's control, but there's also support. Oh, by the way, a loving family it's easy to have boundaries whenever a loving family. It's easy to discipline children with love. Kids that are close to their parents, we know for a fact that they more often than not will not fall pregnant because they are close to their parents. They will not be involved at risk behaviors like smoking and drinking because they are very close to their parents. There's parent-child frequent communication. This is how you make sure that your children are protected from any challenges that can come and destroy them. Remember, we spoke about that last time. Try and do these things. Of course, it's lockdown now. Where you have an appointment with your child. Sipo, next week Tuesday, we're going out together. Tembi, next Wednesday, it's your turn. Just the two of you. And then you sit there and with your daughter, and that's even more powerful. You sit there with your daughter. No, not everyone, just the two of you. Well, there are times where you're going to be there, all of you, and she orders her favorite, you order, and you sit there. There you hear stories, what's happening at school. And what you're actually doing to your daughter is, this is how a woman is treated. And anyone who's going to come and propose and do this, and if you can't get to this level, then you know he's a failure. So you're basically saying to your child, I want to be the first one. I want to be your first husband, if I can use that. I want to be the first voice, a male voice that is so close to, because then I can protect you from all other males that will meet with you, because I've set the standard. So you don't have your child here eating smiley, in kush, smiley, and then the guy buys your child this thing, and the child can't believe. He said, "Yo, oh, she loves me. He loves me. He bought me a white bread and a half a head of a sheep." No, there's no standard there. So the child must be able to say, "I used to go out with my father, and you taking me out, and this is what you can afford." Of course, as fathers, let's not raise the bar too high. Some of these guys will struggle. All right, so, and the last one there is parents often help with schoolwork. And now we are forced to do that. And I wish we can continue even after lockdown, where we touch base. Now, parents are confused. They don't even know what the kids are studying. And they said, you're doing this? What does this mean? Thank God for lockdown. So when the lockdown is over, continue, don't stop, because that helping with the schoolwork is bonding, is creating the bond and inoculating your child against challenges that she would or he would meet. 1840 now, let's see how far we can go. You remember this? The reason I'm bringing this, I just want to make 2 points. Your parenting styles, we spoke about those, permissive, neglectful, authoritarian, and all of that. But the point I wanted to raise here is, especially if you look at this quadrant here, permissive and authoritarian, most Christians tend to be either on this quadrant. Let me tell you what happens. What is the cause? Why do we find ourselves in a permissive style? High support, low control. There's support here, love, but there are no rules, no boundaries. In my language, we say, and then you have authoritarian here, high control and low support. Let me just share with you why you would have such, and then we will bring this to an end. Permissive are basically parents who are, then you will see this somehow relate to your relationship with your previous family background or of upbringing, or your relationship with God, or your relationship with one another. And I'm just summing what we said earlier on, why it's important for us to work on our relationship. Now, the permissive parent could actually be suffering from parenting by guilt or with guilt. It's a compromised relationship with God and their children. In other words, you are guilty. If as a parent, you know you are guilty of something that you have done, of sin, especially if your kids are aware, or even if they're not aware, you find it very difficult to have boundaries, because you yourself have no boundaries. When your children know that you were involved in another relationship, it's going to be very difficult for you to say you must be at home at 8 o'clock. They'll say, but daddy, who's speaking now? It becomes difficult for you, like David, who could not reprimand his own children because he had compromised himself when he slept with Bathsheba. So he couldn't say no, and as a result, it almost destroyed his kingdom. So parenting by guilt, then you end up saying, it's okay, you can have that, it's okay. It's worse when the kids are aware of that. Then they sort of terrorize you, they blackmail you, they are aware of your vulnerability, and then they use it to force you to do things and show support and no boundaries. Especially also when you know that you are not always there for your kids, and when you are there, you want to shower them with all kinds of things, especially with single parents. There on number 3, you want to end their love, the love of your kids, because you know that they stay with their father. So when they're here, you don't want them to feel like, it's not nice here. Mommy wants us to sleep early, but daddy doesn't. So you say, okay, fine, you can enjoy. Then you compete with the father, and then you do things. Those kids, when you try to be strict, they say, okay, you're trying to do that, we're not going to come back here again. We're going to stay with daddy. We're not coming. We said, okay, please, you can come. I'm not going to do that. So you are actually held at ransom. You are actually being blackmailed. And that's why at times you can have that permissive lifestyle or permissive parenting style. Look at number 2 there. Number 2 says reaction to the family of background. If you are coming from a family that was authoritarian, that was strict, very strict, no love, no nothing, no hugging, is work. You wake up at 3 o'clock, you come for prayer. If you're not there for prayer, you're not going to eat breakfast. It's terrible. You must go to church, you must do this. If you come from that family, chances are when you start your own family, you're going to say, me, I was punished. This, my mother did this, my father did this. I'll never do that to my own children. So you tend to try and reach out to your own childhood. You try to give your children what you longed from your parents. So you give them too much love, but because you were disciplined, and punished, and there was no love and support, so you give them that which you did not have. But because you were already with enough controls, you make sure that your kids don't have control. So you try to balance your family, your background family by your family. It's terrible. It gets worse when you are married to somebody who may not even agree with that. Then you start fighting, which may end up in a divorce. So you want my children to suffer like I suffered and stuff like that. And so you end up being permissive because you're trying to correct what your parents did. And sometimes, of course, in some cases, it's a theological challenge. You just misunderstand God's grace. You think because God loves you, that God does not rebuke. Revelation 3, verse 19, I think, it says, those that I love, I rebuke and I discipline. So in other words, there's control, boundaries, even in the love and the grace that God gives us. I think at this time, I must say, you could be sending your questions. I'm trying to see if I can see your questions. Try and send your questions through, because now we will be able to read those questions. This is almost our last slide. So throw those questions through, and we can answer them. We'll have enough time for those questions. I don't see them here on this device of mine. I see. Yeah, there's another one there that I can see. Of mine. I see. Yeah, there's another one there that I can. Sorry, I'm trying to. Shouldn't be doing that. Okay, I'm going to read that question. So the authoritarian lifestyle. What is the problem there? Comes back to relationship as well. So we saw the permissive. What about the authoritarian one? Usually, your authoritarian are legalists. Legalists in the sense that even in church they're like that, very strict, no nonsense. They think they represent God. They don't play. They call sin by its right name. Even their sermons are always hot. I almost said they are from the other side. That's very hot. They are always hot, and they're always promising people that they will go to hell if they don't do this. And there's no heaven in there. I think you must work for it. You must earn it. And they mirror that image they have in their minds, that they think that God is actually that kind of a person. And these people in the authoritarian are usually concerned about their image. You know, when the child falls pregnant, what will they say in the church? What will they think about me? You want them? You are embarrassing me. You're casting shame on the family. You know, you're not talking about the pain of the child. You're talking about your pain. You know, and kids have to listen to that now. You want them to laugh at me. So you're concerned about your image, not the welfare of your child. And those are very mean parents. And some of us come from those. And that's why when we get married, then we move to the permissive side. And usually some of the authoritarian, then they have anger management, the challenges with anger management. And of course, some of them have past emotional wounds. It's a known fact that if you are wounded, you will wound others. If you are struggling with wounds in your past, you're going to wound others. Hurt people, damage people, damage people. People who got wounds, they wound others. So you need healing so that you can be able to bring healing also in your family. So you see what is happening? If you're going to be an authoritarian style, you are actually attracting challenges. You're attracting all things that have to do with love. If this child is going to be exposed to somebody who says, I love you, he's gone or she's gone. If this one goes to a syndicate or group of people that break in cars and they love him, he's gone. So those challenges of misbehavior and misconduct are going to be attractive. Why? Because there's something missing in the family. The same with the authoritarian, with the permissive. So what we want to do by God's grace is to move to the authoritative, there where we balance love and support and control, where we grow together, where we, like we mentioned, we have time for homework. That's an authoritative. It's time to sleep now. It's time to wash this. It's time to do this. There's order. There's discipline. Love in itself disciplines. When you love people, there are certain things you don't love, and you strict on those. But you love them, you support them, and you don't just take their disobedience as rebellion. In these dysfunctional lifestyle, parenting styles, there's no relationship. The relationship is dysfunctional. It just breeds rebellion. The whole thing breeds rebellion. All right, I'm going to stop right there, saying that the best way of meeting the challenges, they will always be there. We can name them, starting from whatever, including, if you please, homosexuality, lesbianism, all of those challenges that are challenging our kids. You will find that somewhere they find their way in how we relate to each other. All right. Let me see then if I can read some of the questions that I have here. Busi, I don't know whether you have questions on your side.
Yes, we have some questions here. Can I read them to you?
Yeah, you're going to read them. Okay, let me see if I can get a paper to write. I've got one here. I don't know how it came to me, but I can see one here, but it's gone now. Okay, give me the questions then I can.
Okay, the one question is a family setup supposed to be a democratic setup? And then the other one is the challenge of parenting by single or separated parents. How can we bring children up under these circumstances? And then question number 3 is, at home, I'm the only Adventist member. My mom died some time ago, and my dad is still alive. And I'm the eldest child. There's 8 of us at home. And my father and my mother didn't get along well when she was still alive, even though I couldn't point a finger on what was the problem. And it was clear though that they didn't get along. But after my mom died, the hostility amongst the siblings just thickened. So even today, we still don't get along. One thing I forget is that my dad is a polygamist and he's staying with another woman. So I think the main thing here is that yeah, the parents didn't get along and the siblings also don't get along.
So what's the
And
question?
it looks like a statement,
Yeah.
possibly. Yeah, possibly it's a statement, but maybe something to talk about what the impact of parents not getting along.
Okay.
Um, the other question is, if we don't have family worship, how can we introduce it in a very simple way? And the other question is, how can our generation be assisted to learn to communicate and minimize idolizing items at the expense of our marriages? That is the social media and the technology, the amount of time that we spend as couples on these gadgets. It affects our marriages and has led to a lot of problems, including divorce. Let me read the last one. Um, he says, I want to ask the pastor, if as a couple we fail to love and respect each other, communication is really bad, and we misunderstand each other on simple things like what program should we allow the children to watch. We can't even get to bigger issues such as finance. And each person with their own income, is it still a healthy home? Is separation not best for us and our children? Then even now, daddy doesn't speak to mommy, and the children knows that he shouts. It's been like this since the first year of marriage. It's almost 10 years now. So the issue started when we had a baby and we moved with the in-laws, and we had a lot of issues. I feel exhausted, like this is very toxic. Yeah, basically that's the question.
Okay.
So maybe
All right.
we can.
Let's see if we can try and answer these questions. And I'll try my best. Is the family a democratic setup? I don't know what you mean by democracy. Democracy is you take a vote and you elect somebody to be your leader, and there's a vote. Nobody elects the father. There's no majority votes for the father. Who wants this one to be the father? So we voted for you as the father. God declares that the husband, he's the head. There's no vote there taken to determine who is the father. It's God, and people who have a problem with that must take that with God. It's not a government that for the people, by the people, of the people. The fact that the mother must relate to the father and it says as Christ, as the woman, as the wife, the church relates to Christ. It is there chronicled for us. It is not a consensus. It is not something that the mother and the father agreed on. Okay, fine, you're going to be the head because you have a degree, or you're going to be the head because you earn more money than. No. So there's no democracy in that true sense, but there is a situation where parents must be parents. You can't be negotiating everything. There's a time where parents must just be parents and say, hey, you've got to do that. But there are times when parents can say, okay, we want to teach you want to mature you, want to develop you. So now we're going to teach you, we're going to guide you. So they do that. I mean, for example, if your child is crossing the street, how much democracy do you need? How many of us would want the child not to get out of the road? Do you think it's nice the child is gone before you finish all those processes? So there are times where The child must know that this is the father. That's why at times I say, sometimes you confuse being friendly with being a friend. I'm not a friend to my child. I'm friendly. I'm the father. He has got enough friends, but he has got only one father. So I'm the father. When I speak to him, I speak as a father, not as a friend, but I'm a friendly father. I can listen to him and advise and work together. That's fine. But I'm not a friend. A friend, they sit there and the both of them are immature. I'm the father. I know, I've been there. I know what's wrong. I know what's right. I'm the father. So that to me doesn't sound like democracy. It doesn't also sound like autocracy either. It sounds like a family where there are certain things that must be done. We may even agree on certain things and make a follow-up. I know families where they've got meetings, somebody's the chair and there's secretary, they take decisions. That's fine, they run it like that. But a family does not necessarily fall under democracy. It's authoritative. There are enough controls and there's enough support as well. And the problem of single parenting, it's huge. I don't know, we just need a whole presentation on single parenting because it depends. You may be single parenting in the sense that you don't have a partner who died, or the partner is living somewhere with another partner, and you bring up these children. It's a divorce, or you could be widowed, or you never got married. It comes in many disguises, and it has serious and other shapes and sizes. You could be in a situation where there's hostility between you and the father of the child or the mother of the child, and that affects the child. And you could be having a father who is, in terms of faith and values, goes this way and you go that way, and you only have the child over the weekend, or maybe only the child over holidays because of your whatever conditions for the divorce. And all those things factor in. But listen, you can only do what you can do. God does not call upon you to do what you cannot do. If you only have 2 days with your child, you can make use of that, keep in touch. If for whatever reason you are not allowed to see your kids, I don't know, then you do the best you can under those circumstances. I know there are mothers who tell their kids that you will never see your father, and they make sure that the kids don't do that. And what do you do as a father? You do the best you can, try and fight for your kids, because they need you. So there's all challenges when you come to single parenting. But remember, we must accept that most of us are coming from single parents. We were raised up by single parents, and for some reason, God has a way of coming through for those parents and become the father or the mother and completes the family. And those single parents have brought up kids that are well behaved. You can imagine if they had a father, it would even be worse, hopefully. But God can be their father to the fatherless, and He promises in the Bible, and the husband to the widows. So single parenting is not the end. You do the best you can, and God will always be there for you. That statement, long statement, and the challenge there of this child, the father is a polygamist, the mother is late, and there's siblings. I don't know how old she is. She just needs to leave that environment. There's no text that says you must stay there. Leave, get out. Unless, of course, she's young or 18 or 16 or 14. But get out and go rent a place, go somewhere, find a way, or try and work towards that. Because how are you going to change that environment as a child, 8 siblings, and the father, polygamist? How are you going to do that? It's toxic. The best thing at times is to move away from a toxic environment. If you can, I don't know if you will be able to do that. How do you introduce family worship in our home? Introduce it slowly. Don't start like guilty. You bring your kids. Listen, your kids, we haven't been having family worship. Now we're going to catch up. We're going to spend 3 hours every day. Catch up for no. Sometimes when you're starting new things in the family, sit down with the kids. Let them know why they're going to do this thing. Tell them that we need support from each other. This is good for us as a family. Try to make it very interesting. Don't make it hours and hours. Find the best suitable time. Talk to each other. Sing together if you can. Read a text. Try and work towards making that time meaningful. If they are old enough, they are old already, it may be very difficult, but you may try the best you can. You can't start something on a 20-year-old, obviously, and he's in his room and he doesn't want to join you. Then you can just come and join her in her room and you all pray together. Remember, there are certain instructions you can give depending on the age, but try and make it very interesting. Try and involve them also in saying, how can we do this in such a way that it is interesting. And then there's this whole issue of the devices. I went to Malawi some few years ago, and a very, very poor family there, pastor's family, and that thing has stayed in my mind. We were there, they were eating, the child was seated on the lap of the father were eating, and then giving food to the child as well. There's not much there. This is supposed to be their where they wash. There's nothing. It is so painful, man. But you should have seen the love there. That child is sitting on the father. It's amazing. It brings leadership. Leaders come from such families, not spoiled brats. Leaders come from such families. Then I saw this other man was driving a bicycle. There was a daughter in front and a child at the back, and the child there hugging the father, and she's dropping them at school, not on a cruise or on a BMW. I'm not saying those things are wrong, where the child sits there with his device, but in that bicycle, you can imagine when you think about that when you are old. I remember those times when we were with my father and he was riding and cycling us, dropping us at school. It's beautiful. Those are powerful memories. I'm not trying to glorify poverty here, but I'm saying these devices have created more distance. We are so separate, even in those homes. We are so far apart. I know there are some families where they say, it's time for eating, it's time for lunch or dinner. There's at least one meal where we are all together, expected to be together. And then they said, we put the phones down, father, mother, all the phones there. Anyone who picks up the phone, then there's an agreement that this is what's going to happen. Anyone who does that, this is what's going to happen. So the phones are there, and then we can find time to talk to each other instead of having so many people who are following you and don't even know them. So we need to find ways of bringing these things in a user-friendly way. Or yes, the other one there of a family where there's no love, there's no respect, there's no effective parenting, there's no discussion of finance. The home is just a disaster, it's so dysfunctional. Then the question is, isn't it best to rather separate? I would never say that, because I don't know what separate would mean. I would never say that, but I can agree with you. It is very, very toxic. It is toxic, and because of its toxicity, I promise you, you will face a lot of challenges. There are going to be a lot of challenges that are going to be impacting on that family. You need to find a way. You need to find help. You need to see the best you can do. But it doesn't look like a good family. Actually, yes, there's mother and father. It doesn't look like a good family. Do the best you can. See if you can get a counselor. So families are worth fighting for, man. They're worth fighting for. I know families that have been so dysfunctional, but they worked hard, and now they are functional families. I know families that came to me for counseling that were almost on the verge of breaking, but they are back now, and they are in good terms. So there are reasons why we want to fight for our families, and we do the best we can. I'm not talking about a situation where you're abused and all kinds of things are happening, and they say, stay there. You may have to distance yourself so that you can be protected and not be harmed in such situations. All right. Wusi, I think I tried to.
Yeah, you've answered most of them. I just have just two more. One says, what should you do if you're in a toxic marriage? And the other one says, can you give examples of good controls in a home where there are children? And if possible, can those be classified by age? But what controls would you say are good for children?
Okay, let's start with that one, the last one. What controls would you have? Of course, these are age specific. You can't say to a 6-year-old, okay, you're going to a function and you'll be back at 11, and say the same thing to a 20-year-old or 18-year-old. So the rules and the controls are age specific. As the child grows, you also lessen the control. As the child grows, because remember, the whole idea of parenting is for self-discipline. You don't want to parent your child until the age of 80. So you remember we said the other day, your 6-year-old, when it comes to the dress that she wants to wear, she may want to make her own choice. You can let her do that. But because she's a 6-year-old, you will say you can choose between this one. I'm talking about being in the shop now. Choose between this and that. So you give him a range, then she can choose. She still exercises choice, but within an umbrella of a choice. When it comes to friends, it comes to what time I can be at home. It comes to I don't want to go to church. A 6-year-old may not want to go to church, but it's okay. We will go to church. It's fine. So you're teaching her that even if you don't want to do something, you can still do it. I don't want to go to school. An 8-year-old may say, then that's okay. Daddy also sometimes feel like not going to work, but I also go. So you will go to school. It's not a problem. So with that, you just need to make sure that your pain threshold is high enough so that you don't lose control, and your kids, like these kids are stressing me, and you end up saying yes. No, it's okay not to. And then she cries. It's okay to cry, but there are times when I cry also, but I've got to go and do certain things. So you cry preparing to go to what was supposed to do, what you're supposed to do. And it is also to deal with the discipline. How do you discipline an 18-year-old and an 8-year-old? It's different. An 18-year-old, you might just say, listen, because of what you have done at 18, of course, you're not going to be chasing an 18-year-old with a belt. You might just be declaring war. It might be a problem. But, by the time your child is at 18, your discipline in most cases is with words, and say, you have disappointed me. I actually trusted you. And I'm having a challenge believing and trusting you after what you have done. And that can actually be more painful to a child. Sometimes we undermine such, where you actually come out and say, you've actually really disappointed me. An 8-year-old, you may say, go to your room. You're not going to come. You're not going to do this. Then there are rewards for good behavior. Then you withdraw certain things that you have power over, and then you withdraw. So it's rewards and you withdraw certain things. So, but it has to do with age. It has to do also with the temperament of the child. There are some kids that are very soft and very sensitive. You do one thing to them, you finish them. You say one sentence, that ego is so fragile. So you need even that approach. You don't have one approach for everyone. And when you're dealing with a child that's naughty, you tend to respect the child and not embarrass the child in front of everyone. You let the child go to your room, and then you sit and you talk to him alone, not in front of others, so that after that others are also laughing at him. So that respect is very important. But the respect also is age specific. So there's ages. There's also approaches that may differ, and depending where you are. But controls is something that you need to agree with, especially with your partner, that you cannot, you are not going to go to that place. You're not going to use my car. You're not going to do that. So some may say, but what if he forces and he wants to do it? Then you have a problem. And your problem is not what he's doing. The problem is that you don't have a relationship. You see, that's the problem. You can't, you see, if you don't have a relationship, you lose the plot. If you don't have a relationship, what's important is to establish a relationship. I can't discipline a person that I have no relationship with. There's no way I can do that. I can only discipline my child because I have a relationship with him. So it's important to establish a relationship and make sure that the relationship is there so that we can talk and be able to come to some form of understanding. And then on the toxic marriage, I think the question is it not better to, I think that was the question, Busi, is it not better to just, on a toxic marriage, what do you do? Better to move away? What do you do with a toxic marriage? I don't know what you mean by toxic. It could be lack of communication. It could be finances or whatever. Find help, man. Find help on these things. Talk to each other. Sometimes the best thing you can do, even in a toxic marriage, because the wife could be saying the husband is stubborn because of this. But if you listen to the husband who says, but the wife talks too much and she does not show respect, and the wife, so sometimes the best change, the best effective way of bringing change is for you to look at yourself and say, what am I contributing to this toxicity? Sometimes it's not just one person doing that, and the one who's aware of that toxicity, then the burden of creating an environment for change lies on him because he's aware, and so you become a change agent yourself. So by working on yourself, you could actually influence and motivate your partner to change as well. But like I say, it's easy to say my husband is like this, my husband is like that. I was talking to someone who was saying that I'm not staying with my husband, and she is gone because my husband. This was some time ago. My husband says I don't respect her, and then I'm asking, but what do you do? He says, no, I respect her, but why does he say you don't respect him? So he says, no, I think the psychologist says I've got an anger problem. You see now, so which means when she's angry, she says things that make the husband feel not respected. And I'm not saying the husband is right by moving. That's not the solution. But what I'm trying to say is at times it's easy for you to say, so-and-so is wrong. I'm not. But when you sit down, you can discover that, no, actually, you are also contributing to this toxicity. So what are you contributing to the levels of toxicity? And when you begin to work on yours, because you can only change yourself, you can't change other people. And when you begin to change yourself by God's grace, focusing on yourself, you'll be surprised what can happen to your partner. Yes, we'll see. I think that's it.
One question here. This person is asking, how do you raise children who have different backgrounds? I am divorced. He said, I'm divorced mom with 2 teenagers. I have a partner who's also divorced who has a child. And I'm Methodist and the children are Catholic. But the husband converted to SDA, and I'm also kind of being introduced into SDA, and we're very committed. But the question is, how do we raise these 3 children with these different backgrounds?
Okay, let me get the facts again. So she is a divorcee, and the married to the husband who has a child, and
who's also divorced. Who's also divorced, who has a child. Yeah.
She has 2 children, and the husband has 1 child. The husband has become an Adventist, and she also is moving towards that. The 2 children are probably still belonging to the former faith that she had, Catholic. Did she say
Methodist.
that? Methodist.
And the husband are Catholic.
Oh, the children, the husband's children are Catholic.
Yes.
Yeah, but then the question is, what's the age?
Sorry?
If we could know the age, we might.
They are teenagers.
No, with teenagers we don't. With teenagers, we need to allow them space to choose to remain as Methodists or as Catholic or to move over. We can share faith with them. There's no way we're going to force them. Remember, the father is becoming an Adventist and nobody's forcing him. So all we need to do is to tell them, hey, I used to be a Methodist or I used to be a Catholic. And these are the reason why I've stopped being a Catholic or I've stopped being a Methodist. It could also be an Adventist who used to be an Adventist. Now he's a Catholic. He says to his children who are Adventist, I used to be a Catholic. So I used to be an Adventist. Now I'm a Catholic. And then you let your children know, but you respect them. I've actually seen parents who do that. So you've got a parent who goes to Adventist, who goes to a Catholic church, but the children go to the Adventist. But the parents support the child. They take them to church. And then, of course, you can have a parent who's an Adventist and the child is a Catholic. And the parents are supposed to do the same to the children. Support them, especially their teenagers, because they have their friends there, they've got their life there. but be able to share with them your understanding of Christ and your understanding of the Bible. But remember, you can't force them. You cannot force them. So remember that unconditional love exists in this family, and it should continue to exist, because you don't want to have a miserable Adventist just for the sake of, because I stay with them, and when they leave, they are no longer there. So you've got to allow them space. It can be very interesting, and that's actually the test there as to whether you are joining a church or you are having a relationship with Christ. Because when you're having a relationship with Christ, it shows in how you relate to others as well.
Okay, Pastor, this one. Good evening. Is it worth being in a marriage where all decisions that are made in the home are made by in-laws and siblings? When you have a problem, especially infidelity, and you try and involve your in-laws for advice and solution, and the response you get will be in support of their son's behavior and conduct. With this HIV era, what's the best solution? I got married in 2017, and my spouse is from SDA, and his family is also from SDA. Let me just read the last one. I want to say that this is the last one. Does God hold you accountable for not raising your children in the way that they should go if the spouse keeps sabotaging what the word recommends, even though we are both Christians? For instance, buying children junk food and letting them watch TV shows that the other spouse does not approve of. What can one do in such a situation to encourage a positive influence? Those are the last two questions.
Okay, now these are very difficult questions today. I don't know. Okay, the first one with the in-laws. Can I just say something here? When there's an issue of infidelity, it doesn't need siblings, it doesn't need family. It's you and your husband, honestly. And then you need to sit down and discuss, is this how we're going to move? Because now you have actually exposed our marriage and our relationship and our union to strangers that I'm not aware of. Because remember, if your husband is having a relationship with other women, he's taking your body without your permission. So you need to sit down with him, and he needs to decide whether this is the relationship he wants, this is the marriage he wants. And at some point, you just have to accept that your husband is not going to change. He's going to continue being unfaithful. And then you've got to decide what's best for you. It's difficult, but you've got to decide. If your husband feels like he wants to be married to somebody else, you can't stop him. And if that's what he's going to do, you can't keep going to the siblings, you can't keep going to the family. You go to your husband. You marry to your husband. Biblically, you marry to a husband. Traditionally, yes, the parents are there for them to get to speak to their child, but you have your own parents as well. But the problem is, in most cases, you'll find that this husband is the one who's earning more money. He's the one who's bringing food. He's the one who's putting bread on the table. And so you don't know what to do. It's like you're in an abusive relationship and you have no say, you have no choice. You just have to sit there, because if you leave, what's going to happen to you? There comes a time where you say, listen, I love you, but I don't love what you're doing, and I cannot stay in this relationship. This is it. And then there's to choose, and can be very difficult. And then it's painful, but it gets to a point where you say, I can't be with you until I know that I am with you. It just has to come to that point. This thing about children and partners, you want to introduce this eating well when there's a meal, but people are just grazing throughout, especially in this lockdown. I see kids are just grazing throughout. It's chocolate, is this and that. That's terrible, man. You're killing your kids slowly. You're poisoning them. So you need to sit down, even if it means with your children, and showing them the evils of these things. Some kids can be very intelligent, and can see that, and you work with them. But your relationship, your problem is not with what your kids are eating. Your problem is with your partner. You don't speak at the same with the same language with your partner. That's where the problem is. And I wonder, where else do you disagree? Because that's very important. That this is how we're going to raise our kids. But remember, these are not your kids only. You do the best you can. And will God blame you? Will God condemn you? Even if you knew that your husband is irresponsible when you married her, when you married him, if that was sin, we all ask for forgiveness for the mistakes we have made. But God is not going to condemn you. Right now, you need God to be on your side, and He's going to do the best He can. And you just become the example. Your kids may grow up to say, I grew up in a family where my father would eat anything, but my mother wouldn't. And that has actually influenced me. So stay on the lane, on the right lane, and you will model what it means. Don't get tired. Love is long suffering. Don't get tired and start saying things that are harmful. Be patient. Be long suffering. Pray. Do the best you can. Try and make your food as exciting, as interesting as possible. Talk to your husband. Show your kids. Educate them. Expose them. Pray. But remember, don't in the process become ugly, because what destroys is not the food only, it is also the atmosphere, the attitude. And if you are able to do that by God's grace, you'll be surprised what you can do. Honestly, you'll be surprised, because kids grow to know what's wrong and what's right. One of them are going to be hospitalized, and the doctor's going to say it's because you're eating this and that and that. That's why you're suffering. And then that may just be a turnaround in the whole family, or the mother, or the father. When that happens, of course, you're not going to say, yeah, I told you, now you're sick, you're going to sit to finish. You're going to be there and help them and say, guys, we need to support daddy now and not be eating this because the doctor said he mustn't eat, and you come together and support each other. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. And I would like to say to those who are not married, listen to this question. Marriage is not just a wedding. Marriage is not just a haircut and the nice shining shoes. Marriage is also working together. It is also parenting. It is also being the role models to our own kids. So when you're looking for a husband, think about the father of your children, because they will not choose their father. You choose the father and the mother of your children. God bless you. Over to you, Busi.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mfundisi. May God bless you too for really facilitating the session. I think everyone who was listening has been blessed. So we are going to ask you to close for us in a word of prayer before as we close the session. Please pray for us.
Thank you very much, friends. We are not on Zoom, so we're not going to be able to see, but you can see me. But maybe next time we will try and find a way of seeing each other. But this for us works better. And I hope you enjoyed it. Let's hear your comments. Send your comments to Dr. Msimanga there as to how you think we could do our next session. What would be the best? Did this one work compared to last one? Or would you prefer us going to Google? We're trying to come up with the best format of presenting these things. And if you feel like last one was better than this one, share those comments so we can look at them and then we can improve. All right? God bless you. Let's pray. Our kind of loving Father, there are so many challenges that we are facing as families. So many. People may see us laughing, getting into the car and driving with our families, but it's war. It's Second World War. Things are tough. There may be families also, Lord, that are on the verge of breaking because of these challenges. We pray, Lord, that you'll give them wisdom, you'll give them power to navigate, and then forgive them, Lord, for the mistakes they may have made. And those families that are doing well, Lord, may they be there and be in many, so we can always look at them and be motivated, because we don't want to be in a situation where all of us, all families are failing. We need other families to succeed, because as they succeed, they will pull us up as well. Thank you, Lord, for this time. Bless our families during this, especially during this lockdown period. In the name of Christ we pray. Amen.
Thank all of you. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you very much. Good night. Good night. Good night.